Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to today's Friday Reflections on this Friday, the 29th of October 2021. I hope you are well wherever you are watching this from and enjoying the month of Rabiul Awwal. Today, I would like to discuss a fatwa in this beautiful book by Mawlana Shaykh Hisham Kabbani. And this book is part of the Encyclopedia of Islamic Doctrine by Mawlana Shaykh Hisham Kabbani, published in 1998. And this one is volume 3 of the series, called The Prophet Salam. And it begins with an introduction. I know a lot of books begin with an introduction, but this one's interesting, because this introduction that Mawlana Shaykh Hisham included in this is actually a fatwa from the Awqaf of Dubai. Should we celebrate Mawlid? A fatwa from the Office of Religious Endowments and Islamic Affairs, Dubai Administration of Iftar and Research, Dr. Isa al-Mani al-Humayri, Chairman of Awqaf Dubai. Reprinted with permission from the Muslim Magazine, Volume 3, 1998. And so this is a fatwa that goes into some of the questions that some people have about Mawlid. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nowadays, we find publications filled with lies and deception, which mislead many Muslims into thinking negatively about the honorable Mawlid of the Prophet ﷺ. These publications claim that to celebrate the Mawlid is an act of innovation that goes against Islam. This is far from the truth, and it is therefore necessary for those who can speak clearly to help clarify and reverse the doubts surrounding this most blessed day. It is with this humble intention that I present the following proofs in support of celebrating our beloved Prophet's birthday, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "He who innovates something in this matter of ours that is not of it will have it rejected." He also said, "Beware of innovations, for every innovation, kul bidah, is misguidance." Those opposed to Mawlid cite this saying and hold that the word every, kul, is a term of generalization, including all types of innovations with no exception, and that therefore celebrating Mawlid is misguidance. By daring to say that, they accuse the scholars of Islam of innovation. At the top of the list of those they have accused is our master Umar ibn al-Khattab. Those in opposition to the Mawlid quickly replied to this, but we did not mean the companions of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It follows then that the meaning of every kul cannot be taken in its general sense. Therefore, although the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam may not have said to celebrate his blessed birthday, it is nonetheless not an innovation to do so. For as the following examples show, there were many actions and practices instituted by his close followers after his time that are not deemed innovation. Number 1, compiling the Quran. In a hadith, Zayd ibn Thabit related that the Prophet ﷺ passed away and the Quran had not been compiled anywhere. Then Umar suggested to Abu Bakr to compile the Quran in one book when a large number of companions were killed in the Battle of Yamama. Abu Bakr wondered, how can we do something that the Prophet ﷺ did not do? Umar said, by Allah, it is good. Umar persisted in asking Abu Bakr until Allah expanded his chest for it. Allah made him agree and accept these suggestions. And he sent for Zayd ibn Thabit and assigned him to compile the Quran. Zayd said, "By Allah, if they had asked me to move a mountain, I would not have been more difficult than to compile the Quran." He also asked, "How could you do something that the prophets did not do?" Abu Bakr said, "It is good." And Umar kept coming back to me until Allah expanded my chest in regard to this matter. This hadith is narrated in Sahih Bukhari. 2. The position of the Maqam Ibrahim alayhi salam in relation to the Kaaba. Al-Bayhaqi narrated with a strong chain of narrators from Aisha, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr, the Maqam was attached to the house. Then Umar moved it back. Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar said in Al-Fath, the companions did not oppose Umar, neither did those who came after them. Thus it became a unanimous agreement. He was also the first to build the enclosure, Makshura on it, which still exists to this day. 3. Adding the first call to prayer on Friday. In Sahih Bukhari, Al-Sayyib bin Yazid related, during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Bakr and Umar, the call to Friday prayer used to occur when the Imam sat on the pulpit. When it was Uthman's time, he added a third call, considered third in relation to the first adhan and the iqamah, but it is named first because it precedes the call to the Friday prayer. 4. Salutations on the Prophet ﷺ, composed and taught by our Master Ali. The salutations have been mentioned by Sayyid ibn Mansur and Ibn Jarir in Tazib al-Athar, and by Ibn Abi Asim and Yaqub ibn Shayba in Akhbar Ali, and by al-Tabarani and others from Salama al-Kindi. The addition to the Tashahhud by Ibn Masud after wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu and the mercy of Allah and blessings, Ibn Masud used to say, Al-Salamu alayna min Rabbina, peace upon us from our Lord, narrated by Al-Tabarani in Al-Kabir. And the narrators are those of sound transmitters, as it has been mentioned in Majma' al-Zawaid. 6. The addition to the Tashahhud by Abdullah ibn Umar. Abdullah ibn Umar added the Basmalah at the beginning of the Tashahhud. He also added to the Talbiyah, Labbaika wa Sadaika wa al-Khairu biyadika wa al-Rabaw ilayka wa al-Amalu. This is mentioned in Bukhari, Muslim, etc. These are some of the developments instituted by the Prophet's companions, the scholars, and the honorable members of his nation, which did not exist during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and which they deemed good. Are they then misguided and guilty of bad innovation? Sayings of scholars concerning types of innovation in Islam. As for the claim that there is no such thing in religion as good innovation, here are some sayings of the brilliant scholars of Islam belying this claim. Imam Nawawi said in his commentary on Sahih Muslim 6:21, the Prophet ﷺ saying, every innovation is a general particular, and it is a reference to the most innovations. The linguists say innovation is any act done without a previous pattern, and it is of 5 different kinds. Imam Nawawi also said in Tazib al-Asma wa al-Sifat, innovation in religious law is to originate anything which did not exist during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and it is divided into good and bad. He also said, al-Mudathat, plural of Mudathat, is to originate something that has no roots in religious law. In the tradition of religious law, it is called innovation. And if it has an origin within the religious law, then it is not innovation. Innovation in religious law is disagreeable, unlike in the language where everything that has been originated without a previous pattern is called innovation, regardless of whether it is good or bad. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, the commentator on Bukhari, said, anything that did not exist during the Prophet ﷺ's time is called innovation, but some are good while others are not. So you see, you've got scholars here, great scholars of Islam, who are highlighting there is a difference between good innovation and bad innovation. It's not like every single bid'ah is a bad thing. Even the compilation of the Quran into a book is bid'ah, but it is good bid'ah. And Hazrat Umar, may Allah bless his soul, he said that this was a good bid'ah and petitioned Abu Bakr as-Siddiq to do this. And today we've made many innovations with the Quran. Now you don't just have the Quran as a book, you have the Quran translated into all manner of different languages in the world. You have the Quran with commentaries. You have the Quran as an audio that you can listen to on a CD or as MP3 or on computer. You know, you have Quran on videos with pictures like nature and stuff. All of this is bid'ah. But these are bid'ahs which are regarded as good bid'ahs and are permitted by the scholars. So not every bid'ah is a bad thing. In summary, that's what we've been reading in this fatwa so far. Abu Naim, narrating from Ibrahim al-Junayd, said, I heard al-Shafi saying, innovation is of 2 types, praiseworthy innovation and blameworthy innovation, and anything that disagrees with the Sunnah is blameworthy. Imam al-Bayhaqi narrated in Manaqib al-Shafi that he said innovations are of 2 types, that which contradicts the Quran, the Sunnah, or unanimous agreement of the Muslims is an innovation of deception, while a good innovation does not contradict any of these things. Sultan al-Ulama al-Iz ibn Abdul Salam said at the end of his book, Al-Kuwait, innovation is divided into obligatory, forbidden, recommended, disagreeable, and permissible. And the way to know which is to match it against the religious law. So basically the Sharia. Clearly, we see from the opinions of these righteous scholars that to define innovations in worship as wholly negative, without exception, is ignorant. For these pious knowers, among them Imam Nawawi and al-Shafi, declared that innovations could be divided into good and bad based on their compliance with or deviance from religious law. Moreover, the following prophetic saying, as stated in Sahih Muslim, is known even to common Muslims, let alone scholars. He who inaugurates a good practice in Islam earns the reward of it, and of all who perform it after him, without diminishing their own rewards in the least. Therefore, it is permissible for a Muslim to originate a good practice, even if the Prophet ﷺ didn't do it, for the sake of doing good and cultivating the reward. The meaning of inaugurate a good practice is to establish a practice through personal reasoning, ijtihad, and derivation, istinbat, from the rules of religious law or its general texts. The actions of the Prophet ﷺ's companions, the Sahaba, and the generation following them, which we have stated above, is the strongest evidence. Those prejudiced against celebrating the Prophet's birthday have paved the way for their falsehood by deceiving the less learned among the Muslims. The prejudiced ones claim that Ibn Kathir writes in his al-Bidayah wal al-Nihaya, al-Bidayah wal al-Nihaya, 11 to 172, that the Fatimid Ubaydite state, which descends from a Jewish man, Ubaydullah ibn Maymun al-Qadar, ruler of Egypt from 357 to 567 AH, innovated the celebration of a number of days, among them the celebration of the Prophet's birthday. This treacherous lie is a grave insult to the scholarship of Ibn Kathir and the scholarship of all Islam. For in truth, Ibn Kathir writes about the Prophet's birthday in al-Bidayah wal al-Nihaya, 13 to 136. The victorious king, Abu Sayyid Kukaburi, was one of the generous, distinguished masters and glorious kings. He left a good impressions and used to observe the honorable Mawlid by having a great celebration. Moreover, he was chivalrous, brave, wise, a scholar, and just. Ibn Kathir continues, and he used to spend 300,000 dinars on Mawlid. In support, Imam Dahabi writes of Abu Sayyid Kukaburi in Siyar Alam al-Nubala, 22 to 336. He was humble, righteous, and loved religious, learned men and scholars of prophetic sayings. Sayings of the rightly guided Imams regarding the Mawlid. Imam al-Suyuti in al-Hawili al-Fatawi. Suyuti wrote a special chapter entitled The Good Intention in Commemorating the Mawlid, at the beginning of which he said, there is a question being asked about commemorating the Mawlid of the Prophet ﷺ in the month of Rabiul Awwal. What is the religious legal ruling in this regard? Is it good or bad? Does the one who celebrates it receive spiritual reward or not? My answer is as follows. To commemorate the Mawlid, which is basically gathering people together, reciting parts of the Quran, narrating stories about the Prophet ﷺ's birth and the signs that accompanied it, then serving food and afterwards departing, is one of the good innovations, and the one who practices it is rewarded because it involves venerating the status of the Prophet ﷺ and expressing joy for his honorable birth. Ibn Taymiyyah in Iqtida al-Sirat al-Mustaqim, Al-Hadith prints page 266. Ibn Taymiyyah states, as to what some people have innovated, either to compete with Christians on the birth of Jesus or for the love of the Prophet ﷺ and veneration for him, Allah might reward them for their love and ijtihad. As far as we are concerned, we commemorate the Mawlid for no other reason but what Ibn Taymiyyah said, out of love and veneration of the Prophet ﷺ. May Allah reward us according to this love and effort, and may Allah bless the one who said, let alone what the Christians claim about their Prophet, and you may praise Muhammad in any way you want and attribute to his essence all honors and to his status all greatness, for his merit has no limits that any expression by any speaker might reach. Imam al-Busiri. Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Haythami. In the same source previously mentioned, Suyuti said, someone asked Ibn Hajar about commemorating the Mawlid. Ibn Hajar answered, basically, commemorating the Mawlid is an innovation that has not been transmitted by the righteous Muslims of the first 3 centuries. However, it involves good things and their opposites. Therefore, whoever looks for the good and avoids the opposites, then it is a good innovation. It occurred to me, Suyuti, to trace it to its established origin, which has been confirmed in the 2 authentic books, Sahihain, Sahih Bukhari, and Sahih Muslim. When the Prophet ﷺ arrived in Medina, he found that the Jews fast the day of Ashura. When he inquired about it, they said, this is the day when Allah drowned Pharaoh and saved Moses alayhi. Therefore, we fast it to show our gratitude to Allah. From this, we can conclude that thanks are being given to Allah on a specific day for sending bounty or preventing indignity or harm. What bounty is greater than the bounty of the coming of this Prophet, the Prophet of mercy, on that day? This is regarding the basis of Mawlid. As for the activities, these should consist only of things that express thankfulness to Allah, such as what has been previously mentioned, reciting Quran, eating food, giving charity, reciting poetry, praising the Prophet ﷺ, or on piety which moves hearts and drives them to do good and work for the hereafter. These are the derivations that those opposed to Mawlid call false conclusions and invalid analogies. Imam Muhammad bin Abu Bakr, Abdullah al-Kaisi al-Dimashqi, he wrote in Jami al-Athar fi Mawlid, al-Nabi al-Muqta, al-Lafs al-Rayq fi Mawlid Khair al-Khalaik, al-Mawlid al-Sadi fi Mawlid al-Khadi. Imam al-Iraqi, he wrote al-Mawlid al-Khani fi al-Mawlid al-Sani. Mullah Ali al-Qari, he wrote al-Mawlid al-Wari fi al-Mawlid al-Nabawi. Imam Ibn Dahiyya, he wrote al-Tanwi fi Mawlid al-Bashir al-Nadir. Imam Sham al-Din bin Nasir al-Damashqi, he wrote Mawlid al-Sadi fi Mawlid al-Hadi. He is the one who said about the Prophet Sallam's estranged uncle Abu Lahab, this unbeliever who has been disparaged, perish his hands, he will stay in hell forever. Yet every Monday his torment is being reduced because of his joy at the birth of the Prophet Sallam. How much mercy can a servant expect who spends all his life joyous about the Prophet Sallam and dies believing in the oneness of Allah? You think about that. Someone who, in the time of the Prophet Sallam, he persecuted the Prophet Sallam and he did a lot of bad things. But when the Prophet Sallam was born, he showed joy at the birth of the Prophet Sallam. And because of that, every Monday, his sins are alleviated. His punishment is alleviated. Just because, even though he opposed the Prophet's mission, he opposed the Prophet ﷺ throughout the rest of his life, but because he showed joy at the birth of the Prophet ﷺ. So imagine for Muslims today who show joy at the Prophet of the birth of the Prophet ﷺ and the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and do that at least every year, and hopefully more than that. How much barakah and blessing and forgiveness are they going to get for doing that? If this is the forgiveness that Allah gives to an unbeliever who persecuted the Prophet ﷺ. Imam Shamsuddin ibn al-Jazri, he wrote, al-Nashir fil al-Kirat al-Ashya, Uf al-Tarif bi al-Mawlid al-Sharif. Imam Ibn al-Jawzi said about the honorable Mawlid, it is a security throughout the year and glad tidings that all wishes and desires will be fulfilled. Imam Abu Shama, Imam Nawawi's Shaykh. So this is the teacher of Imam Nawawi. In his book, Al-Bayth ala Inka al-Bida wal al-Hawadith. So Al-Bayth ala Inka al-Bida wa al-Hawadith said, one of the best innovations in our time is what is being done every year on the Prophet ﷺ's birthday, such as giving charity, doing good deeds, displaying ornaments, and expressing joy, for that expresses the feelings of love and veneration for him in the hearts of those who are celebrating, and also shows thankfulness to Allah for his bounty by sending his messenger, the one who has been sent as a mercy for the world. This is what I discussed in my subject, I think last week, where I was pointing out that by celebrating the Mawlid and reading salawat as showing joy at the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, you are actually thanking Allah, because it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who sent the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So if you do it with the right and pure intentions to please Allah, it's actually a form of ibadah which you get a lot of blessings for. Imam al-Shihab al-Kastalani. Al-Kastalani, Bukhari's commentator, in his book Al-Mawrahib al-Dunya 1-148 said, may Allah have mercy on the one who turns the nights of the months of the Prophet ﷺ's birth into festivities in order to decrease the suffering of those whose hearts are filled with disease and sickness. There are others who wrote and spoke about Mawlid, such as Imam al-Sakari, Imam Waji al-Din bin Ali bin al-Dayba al-Shaybani al-Zubaydi, and many more, which we will not mention due to limitation of space available. From all of this evidence, it should have become clear that celebrating the Mawlid is highly commendable and allowed. Surely we cannot simply shrug off as heretics the scholars and dignitaries of this nation who approved the commemoration of Mawlid and wrote countless books on the subject, are all of these scholars to whom the world is indebted for the beneficial books they have written on the prophetic sayings, jurisprudence, commentaries, and other sorts of knowledge, among the indecent who commit sins and evil. Are they, as those opposed to Mawlid claim, imitating the Christians in celebrating the birth of Jesus? Are they claiming that the Prophet ﷺ did not convey to the nation what they should do? We leave answers to these questions up to you. We must continue to examine the errors which those opposed to Mawlid utter. They say, if celebrating the Mawlid is from the religion, then the Prophet ﷺ would have made it clear to the nation, or would have done it in his lifetime, or would have done it by the companions, or it would have been done by the companions, sorry. No one can say that the Prophet ﷺ did not do it out of his humbleness, for this is speaking evil of him. So they cannot use this argument. Furthermore, that the Prophet ﷺ and his companions did not do a certain thing does not mean they made that thing prohibited. The proof is in the Prophet ﷺ saying, whoever establishes in Islam a good practice, that was cited earlier. This is the strongest evidence that gives encouragement to innovate whatever practices have foundations in religious law, even if the Prophet ﷺ and his companions did not do them. Al-Shafi'i said, anything that has foundation in religious law is not an innovation, even if the companions did not do it, because their refraining from doing it might have been for a certain excuse that they had at the time, or they left it for something better, or perhaps not all of them knew about it. Therefore, whoever prohibits anything based on the concept that the Prophet ﷺ did not do it, his claim has no proof and must be rejected. Thus, we say to the rejectors of Mawlid, based on the rule you have attempted to found, that is, that whoever does anything that the Prophet ﷺ and his companions did not do is committing innovation. It would follow that the Prophet ﷺ did not complete the religion for his nation, and that the Prophet ﷺ did not convey to the nation what they should do. No one says this or believes this except a heretic defecting from the religion of Allah. To the doubters of Mawlid, we declare, based on what you say, we convict you. For you have innovated in the basics of worship a large number of things that the Prophet ﷺ did not do, nor did his companions, the generation after the companions, or the generation after them. For instance, congregating people behind one imam to pray Salat al-Tahajjud after Salat al-Tarawih in the two holy mosques and other mosques, reciting the prayer of completion of the Quran in Salat al-Tarawih and also in Salat al-Tahajjud, designating the 27th night of Ramadan to complete the entire Quran in the two holy mosques. A caller saying after Salat al-Tarawih in the Qiyam prayer, may Allah reward you. The saying, oneness of Allah is divided into three parts: oneness of Godhood, oneness of Lordship, and oneness of the names of attributes. Is this found in a hadith, the statements of the companions, or the statements of the four imams? Founding organizations which did not exist in the time of the Prophet, such as Islamic universities, societies for committing the Quran to memory, offices for missionary work, and committees for enjoining good and forbidding evil. We are not objecting to these things, since they are forms of good innovation. We merely list these innovations to point out that those who oppose Mawlid clearly contradict their own rule, stating that anything that neither the Prophet ﷺ nor his companions did is innovation, since they claim that innovation is bad. They themselves are guilty. Separate to this fatwa, I will also add to that, you will find that many of the organizations which oppose Mawlid, they also have celebrations. They have days, especially in places like UK and America, where they will have conferences, and those conferences will be about Islam, and they will often happen on the same day every year, which, due to the way the holidays work, are maybe national holidays here. So it might be on Christmas or Easter, or on a bank holiday like May bank holiday or something, and they will have a conference then. And especially, if that coincides with Easter or Christmas, how can they do that every year and then criticize Mawlid? It's not logical. Whereas, especially as Mawlid does actually come from Islam and was something introduced by ulama, by scholars of Islam. Yet another claim they make is to say that those who commemorate the Mawlid are mostly indecent and immoral. This is a vulgar statement, and it only reflects the character of the one saying it. Are all the distinguished scholars that we have mentioned, from the point of view of those opposed to Mawlid, indecent and immoral? We wouldn't be surprised if this was what they believed, but this is a most serious slander. We say, as the poet said, when Allah wants to spread a virtue that has been hidden, He would let the tongue of an envious person know about it. Those opposed to Mawlid, may Allah guide them, have confused some expressions and claim that some religious scholars associate partners with Allah. Take, for example, the plea of Imam al-Busiri to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. O most generous of creation, I have no one to resort to save you when the prevailing event takes place. They must examine carefully the saying of Imam al-Busiri, Inda hulul al-hadith al-amami, when the prevailing event takes place. What is al-amam? It means that which prevails over the whole universe and all of creation, in referring to the Day of Judgment. Imam al-Busiri is asking intercession from the Prophet ﷺ on the Day of Judgment, because on that day we will have no one to resort to or to appeal to. Imam al-Busiri seeks his intercession to Allah through the Prophet ﷺ, for when all of the messengers and prophets will be saying, myself, myself, the Prophet will be saying, I am the one for it. I am for it, the intercession. Because on that day, the Prophet ﷺ will remain in prayer until people are forgiven. And this is, he will keep in prostration until Allah takes people who were Muslims, and believers, and Allah takes them from the hellfire and says, okay, I will let them go to heaven. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ will stay in prostration on that day. So this is what Imam al-Busiri was referring to. Yet these people who are critics of Mawlid have deliberately twisted his saying. It becomes even more clear now that the doubts of those opposed to Mawlid are unfounded, just as their charges of associating partners with Allah are unfounded. This is due to their blindness, both physical and spiritual. Another similar example can be found by the well-known saying transmitted by the distinguished Imam al-Kamal bin al-Hammam al-Hanafi, author of Fath al-Qadir fi Manasik al-Farisi, and Shah al-Muqta min al-Sada al-Anaf. When Imam Abu Hanifa visited Medina, he stood in front of the honorable grave of the Prophet ﷺ and said, O most honorable of the two weighty ones, humankind and jinn, O treasure of mankind, shower your generosity upon me and please me with your pleasure. I am aspiring for your generosity, and there is no one for Abu Hanifa in the world but you. Again, we must not interpret this entreaty, but realize its true meaning. If you want to purchase this, you can still order them from Amazon, believe it or not. And there are also some Naqshbandi shops that you can order these books from. So if you want to order the Encyclopedia of Islamic Doctrine, I have had the full set for some time and found it incredibly useful in clarifying my own understanding of Islam. And I do highly recommend this series. It has some really good knowledge in it. Yet another misconception those opposed to Mawlid hold can be seen in their statements, such as these. What occurs during Mawlid is mixing between men and women, singing and playing musical instruments, and drinking alcohol. I myself know this to be a lie, for I have attended many Mawlids and have not seen any mixing and never heard any musical instruments. As for drunkenness, yes, I have seen it, but not that of the worldly people. We found people intoxicated with the love of the Prophet ﷺ, a state surpassing even the agony of death, which we know overcame our master Bilal at the time of his death. In the midst of this sweet stupor, he was saying, tomorrow I shall meet the loved ones, Muhammad ﷺ and his companions. Subhanallah. To continue, those opposed to Mawlid say, the day of the Prophet ﷺ's birth is the same day of the week as his death. Therefore, joy on this day is no more appropriate than sorrow. And if religion is according to one's opinion, then this day should be a day of mourning and sorrow. This kind of lame eloquence is answered by the Imam al-Jalal ad-Din al-Suyuti in al-Hawi li al-Fatawi, page 193. The Prophet ﷺ's birth is the greatest bounty, and his death is the greatest calamity. Religious law urges us to express thankfulness for bounties and be patient and remain calm during calamities. Religious law has commanded us to sacrifice an animal on the birth of a child and distribute the meat to the needy, which is an expression of gratitude and happiness with the newborn, while it did not command us to sacrifice at the time of death. Also, it prohibited wailing and showing grief. This is a very good point. You know, when a child is born within Islam, we traditionally would make a sacrifice. And, you know, today maybe some people, they will make a charitable donation to feed hungry people or something if they don't do that. But something is done to celebrate the birth of a child within Islam. But when a person dies, even if that person is your, you know, dear father or mother or someone very, very close to you, we are taught in our religion not to go excessively into grief. Now, what's natural is okay, you know, so if a person cries normally and feels sad, this is obviously quite normal. But in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, before Islam, there were some people, they actually paid people to come to a funeral and to cry, like dramatically cry and make everybody even more sad. this was forbidden by the Prophet ﷺ. And he urged people to be patient, that death is actually a natural thing, that we all will die at some point. And we need to be patient and we need to heal. So the emphasis of Islam is not on death, but it is on birth. It's not on our passing away, but it is on the coming of new life. And so the emphasis in regards to Mawlid, even if it be the same day that the Prophet ﷺ died, is to show joy and thankfulness for the birth of the Prophet ﷺ and for the life of the Prophet ﷺ. Furthermore, Ibn Rajab, in his book, Al-Latif, praising the rejectors of Mawlid, based on the above argument, said, some designated the day of Ashura as a funeral ceremony for the murder of al-Hussein. But neither Allah nor his Prophet ﷺ commanded that the days of the Prophet's great trials or deaths should be declared days of mourning, let alone those with lesser rank. We conclude this article with a saying of the Prophet ﷺ, which has been narrated by Abu Yala from Hudayfa, and about which Ibn Kathir said, its chain of transmission is good. Abu Yala said that the Prophet ﷺ has said, one of the things that concerns me about my nation is a man who studied the Quran, and when its grace started to show on him, and he had the appearance of a Muslim, he detached himself from it and threw it behind his back and went after his neighbor with a sword and accused him of associating partners with Allah. I then asked, "O Prophet of Allah, which one is more guilty of associating partners with Allah, the accused or the accuser?" The Prophet ﷺ said, "It is the accuser." SubhanAllah. I read that again because that's important, especially in today's times with the kind of extremism that we've seen, not only to do with this, but we conclude this article with a saying of the Prophet ﷺ. This is a hadith which has been narrated by Abu Yala from Hudayfa, and about which Ibn Kathir said its chain of transmission is good. Abu Yala said that the Prophet ﷺ had said, one of the things that concerns me about my nation is a man who studied the Quran, and when its grace started to show on him, and he had the appearance of a Muslim, he detached himself from it and threw it behind his back and went after his neighbor with a sword and accused him of associating partners with Allah. I then asked, "O Prophet of Allah, which one is more guilty of associating partners with Allah, the accused or the accuser?" The Prophet ﷺ said, "It is the accuser." So the Prophet ﷺ feared this. He feared people accusing, he feared Muslims who came into Islam, then going around accusing other Muslims of being polytheists, of being mushriks. He worried about this. And he said that they are more guilty of associating partners with Allah than the ones that they're accusing. And also he mentioned a sword here, that they put the Quran behind their back. In other words, they stop following the Quran, even though they come into Islam and they show some appearance of being a Muslim, but then they put the Quran behind their back, they stopped following, and they took a sword against their neighbors. I mean, what better description could you have of people like Al-Qaeda and ISIS? Subhanallah. Completed with all praises to Allah and the salutations and peace be upon our Master Muhammad and the family of Muhammad and his companions. Isa al-Mani al-Humayri, Chairman of Awqaf Dubai. So what I've just been reading, for anybody who wasn't here earlier, is from this book, Encyclopedia of Islamic Doctrine, Volume 3, which is also titled The Prophet, Commemorations, Visitation and His Knowledge of the Unseen, by Mawlana Shaykh Muhammad Hisham Kabbani, published in 1998, and it's still available. You can still buy this book. And the introduction of this book is actually a fatwa from the Office of Religious Endowments and Islamic Affairs, Dubai, Administration of Ifta and Research, Dr. Isa al-Mani al-Humayri, Chairman of Awqaf of Dubai, and it was reprinted with permission from the Muslim Magazine, Volume 3, 1998. So, you know, if you missed this, I'm going to post the video, and you can re-watch the video if you don't have access to the book. But it really does clarify matters in a very concise way with good evidences. And from, you know, the Prophet ﷺ and from the great scholars of Islam of the past, which perfectly clarifies that Mawlid is permissible. And those who are going to excesses in criticizing this are actually the ones that really should be rethinking their approach rather than the ones that they're criticizing. If anybody has any questions, I'll quickly take your questions for the next 5 or 10 minutes. And then I will have to close this session because it is getting rather late here. But feel free if you have a question to ask. Or alternatively, you can always inbox me. Okay, well, if there's no questions, then I'll wish you all a very good evening. And if you're in the UK, that is. And if you're elsewhere in the world, I wish you a very blessed day and enjoy the rest of this blessed month of Rabiul Awwal and any Mawlid celebrations which are currently happening. May Allah bless you and your families, and may Allah grant us all to be under the cloak of the Prophet Muhammad on the day of reckoning. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammadin wa barik wa salim. Salli ya Rabbi wa salim ala jami' anbiya'i wa mursalin wa ala kulli ajma'in. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil alamin. Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. And may Allah bless Mawlana Shaykh Hisham Kabbani and Mawlana, his teacher, Mawlana Shaykh Nazim, and Dr. Isa for writing this fatwa and also for writing these books and clarifying these matters which have caused great fitna among Muslims in current times. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم صلي يا ربي وسلم على جميع الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى كل الأجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. فاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم. If you find these videos useful and informative, please don't forget to subscribe to my Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and so that you can be kept up to date with my latest videos. And I also upload all of the videos to my YouTube channel after the lives, where you can actually get access to whichever ones you've missed if you want to catch up on any. And I also post those to my website along with the articles and posts at paulsarmstrong.com. I wish you all the very best, and may Allah bless you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.